The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
We're joined today by Engagement Multiplier. I'm just going to do some brief introductions. So I'm Greg Guilford, I'm the CEO at HR Solutions, and we have Steve Middleton, who is the Senior Business Engagement Manager at Engagement Multiplier. HR Solutions are a client as well as a partner of Engagement Multiplier, and we've been using Engagement Multiplier within our business and have seen the engagement scores within our business go up. So we are very pleased with the responses we're getting through Engagement Multiplier. But Steve's today going to help talk through some more information about the leadership perception gap and how Engagement Multiplier is helping organisations address those gaps and help you put strategies in place for when we emerge from COVID. We also have Sue Watson, who's our HR Operations Manager, and Ateem Arden, who's our Digital Marketing Executive, and they'll be there to help with any questions you have throughout the webinar, but we will pause at the end to take questions as well. So in terms of how to ask questions, some of you would have been on our webinars before, so you notice you are all on mute. There's an obvious reason for that. Everyone talking at the same time makes it very difficult, but you do have a chat panel on your screen or on your web browser, depending on how you've logged in, and it should have a box there that says questions. So simply, if you put your question in there, we'll either answer them as we go along if they're technical questions, but if not, we'll pause at the end of Steve's presentation to answer those questions as well. We will have a poll in the session towards the end, and that will pop up on your screen, and you just simply choose the options that are most relevant to you when that poll is on the screen. Okay, without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to Steve.
Good morning, and thank you, Greg. So if you can just pass over the presentation mode. Fabulous, I have that here. So everyone should now be able to see my screen. And welcome everyone to the Leadership Perception Gap. As Greg mentioned, my name's Steve Middleton. I'm the Senior Business Engagement Manager here at Engagement Multiplier. For those who do not know who we are, we work with successful business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders all over the world that truly understand the power and impact of having an engaged workforce. And today, I'm excited to join you and share with you a presentation that we call the Leadership Perception Gap. And this is to help you understand, first of all, the critical importance of leadership right now in this current climate, and how when you get it right, the impact that can have on your future growth and productivity, but also to help you understand what we mean by the leadership perception gap. So with that being said, I'm going to dive into today's agenda. So the first thing we're going to cover off today is leadership and its critical importance in today's world. The 7 essential leadership qualities that we've learned and that we've seen in high-performing leaders, particularly going through this pandemic. And we talk about wartime and peacetime leaders. This is a time when we're in the trenches, and as leaders, we need to really thrive. I'm going to provide you with access to free tools and resources and the use of our technology today, as well as part of the webinar, and share that with you so you can define, first of all, whether you are suffering from the leadership perception gap, but also how to solve it. And that takes me on to the final point of today's webinar. I'll be sharing with you simple strategies that you can implement immediately that will help you to succeed, not just through the pandemic as we continue in various stages of lockdown, but also to help each and every one of us emerge stronger. And at the end of that, we will open up to Q&A. So please, as Greg mentioned, I'm keen to make sure this presentation is of most value to each and every one of you. Should you have any questions, please submit them through the forum, and Greg and I will work through those at the end of the presentation. So I want to start the presentation with this statement. Business, successful or not, is merely reflection of the character of its leadership. I love this statement because it's just so true. Poor leadership, you often see poor performance within teams, you see high turnover rate of staff, you see low productivity rates, and a stream of problems. Whereas if you have great leadership, you simply have a high-performing team, a growth-focused business, and everyone collectively striving to drive your business forward. So that's the importance of leadership, and it's perfectly characterized or described in this one statement. But if we look at poor leadership and the impact it can have, and I'm not going to go through each of these, but I'm sure we've all seen the impact of that, loss of profits, poor performance, less innovation, change doesn't stick, etc., etc. The reality is it's horrible, okay? Whereas strong leadership, everything comes together. And this is the importance of today's webinar. And if we look at leaders, and a few things we need to be aware of in this new normal is that, how leaders need to realize that the world has changed forever. Okay, and I hate using the word new normal, but it is a reality. And I don't mean just that, work's changed forever. Our people have changed. Your team have changed, your staff have changed, the way your customers interact with you has changed, people's perceptions on the world has changed. So we need to be aware of that. And with rapid change needs to be a core competency within, again, a high-performing leader. But also resilience is key. Resilience is the ability to deal with that change, but also an understanding that there's a rapid evolution with our employee experience. So all of these things represent changes that leaders in today's world must address. And that leads me on to the leadership perception gap. So what do I mean by the leadership perception gap? Well, those of you on the call that are business owners, I'm sure you will have a perception on how you're performing as a leader, but also you will have a perception of how your leadership are performing. But so will your leaders, and so will your people, so your employees. So your employees will also have a perception on how you and your leaders are performing. The problem happens is when that gap is too great. Because if you have a gap or a difference of perceptions around that leadership, that's when the execution of new initiatives is greatly restricted. So today, I want to explain to you the 7 characteristics that we've seen in high-performing leaders to help you understand whether there's any gaps in your leadership that we need to focus on to enable you to, again, thrive not just now, but deep into the future. So with that being said, what I'm going to share with you now are the 7 critical qualities that leaders will need in this post-COVID world. And here they are. Now, what I'm going to do on these next few slides, I'm going to share with you what each of these characteristics mean in your business, where, again, to make you think about how you're performing as a business leader, but also how your leaders are performing. But also know at the end of this, I'm going to provide you with a very simple tool that will enable you to assess this both as an individual, but also across the organization. So let's look at this. So courage. Courageous leaders embrace the good, the bad, and the ugly. So what do I mean by that? This is long gone the days of ignorance being a strong business strategy. What I don't know doesn't matter. Okay, courageous leaders very much have an abundance mindset. And you'll see what I'm going to do for each of these 7 characteristics. I'm going to share with you the difference between leaders that have a scarcity mindset and those leaders that have an abundance mindset. And what I'm hoping you'll see is that those that have an abundance mindset will always achieve more. Never have I seen evidence where those that have a scarcity mindset ultimately achieve long-term success with their teams. And to give you the example with this, if we're looking at courage, scarcity mindset, I bury my head in the sand. I hope that problems will simply go away. I avoid confrontation. I don't enjoy leading people. That's a real problem if you're a business leader. It's my way or the highway, so I lead with an iron fist. You do as I say, not do as I do. I'm above getting feedback from my subordinates. Now, I'm sure we'll all agree that those that think in that mindset will be limited in what they can achieve, but also they'll have a team of people working against them rather than helping them to drive the business forward. Whereas if you see those that have an abundance mindset, I don't believe ignorance is a strategy. I align difficult decisions with outcomes. I embrace accountability, so I'm accountable for my role. I'm confident in a crisis. Again, we talk about wartime and peacetime leaders. I seek and accept constructive feedback. So again, I'm open to change. I'm open to ideas. It's not just me that's going to drive the business forward. My success is the success of those around me. So courageous leaders is very important. And if we look at the impact of that, the impact of courageous leaders, courageous leaders I'm just going to get rid of this on the right hand side. 1 second. No, let's not do that. Bear with me. Yeah, here we go. Courageous leaders. Courageous leaders bring energy and excitement to the organizations they lead, increasing engagement, productivity, and performance. I'm sure we can all agree, one of the hardest hit areas as a result of this current pandemic is productivity, mainly because we have to work now within social distancing guidelines, or remotely, or even working from home, like many of us still are and have been since March. So the impact to an employee is that, I'm confident in my leader because she makes good, fair decisions and is open to receiving honest feedback from employees. So again, really important. So what we're going to do now is look at each of these. So credibility. Credible leaders walk the talk. Long gone the days again of, do as I say, not do as I do. And again, you can see here there is a scarcity and an abundance mindset. Now, what I'm not going to do is going to go through each of these because we'll be here for the rest of the afternoon. But just know that as a result of today's webinar, I'm going to share with you these slides so you can think deeper about your leaders in your organization and whether you believe they have a scarcity mindset or an abundance mindset against each one of these qualities. And we go through, but let's look at the impact of what a credible leader achieves. The reciprocal energy makes the leader's job easier. In terms, they and the business become more productive, again, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy cycle. This is all about building a self-managed organization, teams that lead themselves. And it ultimately makes the leader's job easier, but also it makes them more successful as leaders. Because this is all about, it's not about highlighting where leaders are really poor, but it's how we can enhance that leader to make them a better performing leader. The result for employees and the impact on employees is that my leader motivates me by leading by example and displays the same standard that she expects from employees. One thing that I make sure I do as a business leader is that when I'm showing up to meetings, I show up on time, if not ahead of time, and I make sure I'm in the meeting. Okay, I'm not just there as a stand. I don't just stand by and watch it happen, because that's how I expect others to also show up. I would not appreciate an employee turning up 5 minutes for my meetings, so equally, I wouldn't expect them to be thrilled if I was late to one of theirs. Consistency. Consistent leaders are aligned with the company's purpose and strategy. This is where you're going to get consistent results. And again, one thing I'm really proud of Engagement Multiplier, we're in year 6 now as an organization, and this has been our most successful year to record, even given the current climate. And that's because we're constantly focused on the purpose of our business as leaders, and we know what we're looking to achieve. But we're also consistent with that approach. We don't dip in and out when we feel like it. It's a consistent approach. And the impact of that is that consistent leaders lead teams and deliver consistent results. If you look at our growth span, we've had a consistent stage of growth over the 6 years that we've been operating. But the impact on employees is even more important. I consistently have productive two-way review meetings with my leader, and as a result, I understand how my role contributes to the business's goals. This is about making sure that, do my goals meet that of the organization? How am I supported by my leader? What's my contribution towards the overall purpose of the business? Because if I understand that, that's empowering, and that's going to enable me to achieve more and drive me to achieve more. Confidence. Confident leaders believe outcomes win over inputs. Again, so incredibly important. If we look at this on the scarcity and abundance mindset, I trust my team to get the job done without the need for micromanaging. This micromanaging has become incredibly difficult in this current climate because you can no longer, in a lot of cases, walk out into the office and see what each individual is doing and crack the whip where you need to. Instead, you have to trust that your teams are working consistently whilst working remotely. And I promise you, it's very easy for an employee to turn up to a webinar or to a Zoom meeting or whatever device you're using and put on a show for 15 minutes to demonstrate they're in the moment. It's what happens after that meeting finishes that's really important. And again, confident, consistent leaders are the ones that are really thriving because they don't need to micromanage their team. And in fact, if we look at the impact of that, leaders' time is spent less on micromanaging and on the day-to-day and more on leading, providing clarity, direction, coaching, and developing their teams. Employees' capabilities grow and the business becomes far more self-managing. This, again, is about building that self-managed organization, a team that's easier to run, a team that is helping you to drive the business forward rather than holding the brakes at the back. And the result impact for employees is that there is a mutual trust between me and my leader. I'm trusted to get my job done without micromanagement, knowing that I can call on my leader's support when it's needed. Again, it's not about just letting them go and go get it done. You still have to be there as the leader to provide that support. It's finding that balance. Connection, really important one. Reason for this, and to put it in my own words, a connected leader always knows what's going on in the business, and they're aware of any obstacles before they become challenges. And that's because their teams are constantly speaking and communicating with the leadership team to let them know where they're thriving, what we're doing really well, but also areas where it can be improved in any particular hurdles or challenges that are around the corner. And again, if we look at these connected leaders on the scarcity and abundance mindset, again, I'm sure we can all agree it's those in that right-hand column that will always achieve more. And the impact of connected leaders, well, connected leaders enjoy strong relationships with team members and open lines of communication, which enable them to know what's going on across the organization without resorting to micromanagement. And if we look at that from an employee's perspective, is that my leader demonstrates enthusiasm for our purpose and is a strong communicator who keeps employees up to date with progress and news. Why is this important? Well, again, whenever there are times of uncertainty, whether that's because you're experiencing huge growth, and I know a lot of businesses are as a result of COVID, or whether that's because you've had to change and really, again, try different ways, transform the way you're doing business. Maybe you've been impacted and you've had to reduce your team significantly, or there's still a number of your teams on furlough. Well, right now, it's your employees that are looking at leadership more than ever before, and they want clear, concise communication, but they also want answers. So again, just be mindful of that in terms of keeping connected with your teams. Now, only a couple more to go, but this one, caring, for me, is the #1 characteristic that I look for in a high-performing leader. Simply that if I'm working for someone that I know cares about me, ultimately I'm going to care about them and what they want, what they're looking to achieve. So I'm going to do whatever I can to help them achieve that. So caring leaders believe that when everybody grows, everybody wins. You know, how many leaders do you know that take your great idea and showcase it as their own? That's somebody who has a scarcity mindset, not somebody who's in that abundant mindset. And the impact of caring leaders, well, by creating an environment that encourages cooperation and helpful to others, caring leaders develop their people, continually raising the bar on their team skills, and everybody wins. You're going to have a team that's more capable, more willing, and more able to thrive and drive, again, new levels of success in their teams. And the impact on the employees that my leader treats me like a valued team member and actively seeks to help my personal development. One thing we talk about in our business, in fact, we hold accountable, is that we have business goals, and we call them mountaintops, but also we've got our lockdown wins. And actually, we're holding each other accountable for what we're achieving outside of work. And one of the ways we're talking about that is, you know, I used to commute to work 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the evening, depending on traffic, might be slightly quicker, slightly longer. Well, that's given me 4 hours a day. I'm achieving a huge, some things that I'm doing personally, which I'd never have been able to do had we not been in this current climate. So, and one of our team was sharing, they've just finished their scrapbook from lockdown 1 of all the things that they've done, because they're looking forward to sharing that with their kids in years to come, because this is going to be something that will be talked about for years and years. And they're now starting their second scrapbook for lockdown 2.0. So this is exciting to get involved with our team and really understand what's important to them as individuals. And the final one, commitment. Committed leaders are focused on the future. This is really important. And again, just going back to this slide, you're going to get this as a presentation through to you after today's webinar. But really look at these scarcity and abundance mindsets and think about yourself and how you act, but also those around you, and see where your strengths and weaknesses are. But committed leaders, they're focused on the future and committed to the company and its employees. Committed leaders inspire loyalty and confidence from employees who themselves become more personally invested in the company's success. And that has a real impact on employees. Simply, you know, my leader inspires confidence in me by demonstrating that her commitment to the future success of the business. Again, a really important characteristic. So these are the 7 C's, the 7 core characteristics that we know create high-performing leaders. And it's great that I've been able to share that with you today. And hopefully you've taken some of what I've said and you've learned something about yourself as a leader, but also about the team that you're reliant upon to drive your business forward in whatever function they sit within that leadership network. But I now want to provide you with 2 tools that I think are going to help you now to delve that little bit deeper and really highlight whether your teams are thriving across each of these 7 core areas. And by the way, I've never met a business leader that thrives in all 7 of these. There's always an area that you can improve. So the first thing I'm going to share with you is this. This is an opportunity for a self-reflection, and it's the perfect structure. You'll see on this PDF in front of you, it's a 1-page, a very simple document. On the left-hand side, you've got each of those 7 characteristics, and next to those, there's an explanation of what that looks like. Now, as a leader, what you have the opportunity to do is in that next column is put a score in there where you perceive you are right now across each of those 7 core characteristics and score yourself between 0 and 10. But also, and this is about setting goals, put a prediction of where you'd like to be in 90 days' time from again, for how you perceive yourself, and add that score. And then in the following column, in the final column, add up to 3 actions that you can take in each of those columns. You don't have to put any actions in some of them, just choose the ones that you want to focus on and commit yourself to 3 actions that you can take in the next 90 days that's going to enable you to achieve that enhanced score. Now, whilst you're doing that, I want you to ask yourself 4 critical questions. First of all, so how would you score yourself? Well, we're going to find out by completing that self-assessment. But also, how would you score your leaders? And just hold that thought for a moment. How would your leaders score themselves? Well, maybe get them to do the same. Get them to complete that same PDF document. And how would your employees score their leaders? And it's the second and the 4th question that I want to help you with now. For those of you that don't know, we've built a technology that enables businesses, wherever you are in the world, to really pinpoint where their time's most valuable across 6 critical areas in a business, through from purpose to them as owners, the leadership team, how we are as a team of employees, the customer experience, the internal perception of the customer experience, and obviously how your individuals perceive themselves right now. And you get scores across each of these, and you can break it down across different levels, but also for the larger organizations, we can break that down across groups. Now, as a result of today's webinar and our relationship with Greg, and as Greg mentioned, HR Solutions have been using our platform for some time to help them drive business improvements, and it's been great to watch their scores improve significantly, particularly again through this very unique time. But I'd like to offer each and every one of you to have access to our technology for free. There's no obligation, there's no catch to it, but please utilize it. And you'll see in the red box in the center of your screen, one of the core areas we're going to measure for you is, again, for those of you on the call that are business owners, this is your perception on leadership, your leaders themselves and how they're scoring themselves as leaders, but also you'll get to see how your employees perceive leadership. You can see here there is already a gap opening up. Leaders and how they perceive themselves is slightly lower than owners, but again, how employees perceive leaders, much lower to that of the owners and leaders. So there is a gap here that we need to close. And again, for those of you that have bigger organizations, you can set any number of groups, so locations, departments, hierarchy, whatever it needs to be, so you can see specifically which of your groups are scoring leaders higher and lower, and ultimately how each of your leaders are performing as individuals. So just to round out today's presentation, I wanted to finish off with a couple of things. First of all, this statement here. Again, for those of you that know us, Engagement Multiplier, this is something we've been saying right from the offset when we first went to lockdown in March. We can't predict the future, and that's still the same. These are very uncertain times. But if we can accurately learn from the past, we can confidently act in the present and thrive in the future. With accurate data, you can close the perception gap. Please utilize our free resources so you can identify whether there are any gaps, again, within leadership, but maybe other areas of the business, and use the insights captured, the data insights captured to close those gaps. And to remind you, the leadership perception gap is very simple. It's about how you perceive leaders, it's about how leaders perceive themselves, and about how employees perceive leaders. It's when there's a gap that results a problem. So this all forms part of our business improvement toolkit. When we went into lockdown, we were able, very fortunate, to put purpose before profits, and we've created a number of initiatives to help our clients, those that we serve, navigate these unusual times. The leadership perception gap is just one of those. And in fact, if I expand on that, you can see here, these are the 4 programs that we've created. So those of you that have teams working remotely, we have a working from home and winning survey. This is the leadership perception gap that I've taken you through today. We've got the Emerging Stronger program, which is about capturing innovations. We've seen people lift the drains in business and find new ways of running and transforming the way you do business and organizing your teams. Well, again, let's capture that to enable us to again, really innovate that through that rapid change. And then this final one here, kickstarting innovation. This is really interesting because we're at a point now where we've been in lockdown for a long time. And whilst we're seeing vaccines come available, we're still a long way from getting over this. And I can tell you from the results that I see globally, fatigue with employees has definitely kicked in and innovation is slipping. People are not coming through with the ideas that they once did for all the reasons that I've just mentioned. This survey here is designed to kickstart innovation, to get people to think about how they can help to make the business thrive. So these are all available to you, again, for free. The one we've covered off today is leadership perception gap, but again, you're able to access all of those tools, and we can happy to talk you through those. So with that being said, Greg, could I ask you to launch the poll? This is where, and Greg, let me know when you've done that, because I'm not sure what I'm going to see and what the audience can see. Great.
So the poll is now on everyone's screen.
Fantastic, thank you. So you'll see here there are 3 options. Clearly, I'm keen to make sure that I respond to this this webinar and I speak with those and understand what you'd like to achieve from our conversation. So please tick one of these boxes. Yes, I'd like to receive a free engagement multiplier report. So experience the survey. If you'd like to have a conversation with me and understand more, then tick the second box. If you're genuinely not interested and this isn't for you, then don't worry, I'm not going to be upset. It just saves me having to follow up with you and try and sell something that's clearly not of value to you. So yes, top box, I'd like to have a free report. The second one, the middle one, is yes, but I'd like to have a conversation with you to understand more. And the third one, not for me right now. So please go ahead and click one of those 3 boxes. Just while you're doing that, and I know there's a few more of you just to finish that off, this is also a reminder that we're just about to go into Q&A as well. So like I said at the very beginning of this webinar, I'm keen to make sure this call is of most value to each of you. So if you have any questions, feel free to submit them using the Q&A or the question tab on your desktop. I know we've had a number that have come through already, so we'll move on to those as soon as we're done with this poll. Greg, how are we doing? Has everyone completed the poll?
So there's about 75% completed, but we can leave that up while we do the Q&A. So we can leave people who haven't voted to still make a decision. Right. But thank you very much for that, Steve. It's always really interesting to hear you speak as well as the content from Engagement Multiplier. As mentioned throughout, we've used it ourselves, and I think it's fair to say we're always surprised by the honesty of our staff, and it is a totally anonymous platform, so staff definitely feel that they are able to voice anything they want to voice. And we've learned throughout our process, and I think that's what's definitely seen our scores improve in different areas. We haven't done the leadership perception gap one yet, but we are working on our sort of reviewing our purpose and our values as part of the Engagement Multiplier toolkits that you have available. So I think it's important probably to say it's not just a platform, is it? So you have your toolkits, and you certainly help your clients with different toolkits to explore different things that they want to explore within their business. There are obviously the benchmark surveys, but then you can customize those surveys, and then you've got like the leadership perception gap, working from home and winning, surveys that are on-demand surveys that can roll out as well, and we've used the on-demand ones to capture a bit more information along our journey as well. With everything, if you don't have the information, it's really hard for you to make decisions, and that's definitely something we found really useful as part of our journey. It has got me thinking about what my leadership qualities are and where I would fit on the 7 Cs, but we will do our 7 Cs probably in December or early next year.
Right.
So Steve, you're going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, the point here is that, and thank you, Greg, for expanding on that. One thing that each of you have access to is our technology for free, and this is not a one-size-fits-all. There are a number of you on this webinar today, and a number of you that might listen to this back separately, and each of you will probably have different challenges. So just know that whichever route you choose to join us, we will help to understand which of our products is going to be best for you at that time, and none of them will come at any fee. We're not trying to capture you by offering this one for free, then you have to go in. It's genuinely, we will help you to get up and running with the right survey for your business to capture the right data, so you can be of value to you. So have we had any questions? What questions have we had come through, Greg?
Yes, we've got a couple of questions. Obviously, we are in difficult times, and so we have got some HR people on the call as well as leaders. So one of the questions to start with was, I've been managing a number of redundancies as a result of COVID, and also people coming back from furlough. And the question really is now the best time to run a survey?
In answer to that, yeah, absolutely. And the reason being, so you're definitely not on your own. Redundancies from a HR perspective, and Greg, you'll know this, being right in the middle of it at HR Solutions, that the number one challenge you've had has been around furlough and redundancies. But one thing you've got to be mindful of is that what impact has this had on those that are staying in your business? Because there's a number of things that will go through your employees' minds, in that, first of all, am I next? How secure is this business? What's the future of the organization look like? We're now doing the same amount of work with half the amount of people. So my role's changed. I've got additional responsibilities. So for that reason, and the way in which you don't launch this as team, we're going to do a survey, because they'll be like, flipping it, right now, really? Because I promise you, the minute you launch to your team and say to them, we're going to do a survey, and a rating of 0 to 10 of how ecstatic they're going to be, there'll be about a -3 at that point. Okay, no, not many people enjoy doing surveys. But if you talk to them about, look, these are challenging times, we've had to make some really tough decisions. It's important for us right now to understand how this impacts you, your role, and also for us to learn and understand how we can improve. So yes, now is absolutely the right time to do a survey. Does that help, Greg?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Steve. There's another one that says, I've got some people working from home and some working from the office, and we're trying to find the best way to manage this. Will the leadership perception gap help me?
Yes, again, it will. So there's two things that will help you. You would have seen on one of my screens, we've got there's a working from home and winning survey that we have, which ultimately is to help you understand, what options, what changes do you need to make to enable your teams to thrive whilst working from home. So that's something and again, that doesn't have to go to everybody. That can just go to those that are working from home. But also in terms of leadership perception gap, what's the difference between how your leaders are performing with those that are in the office against those that are working from home? Because you might be surprised. We've seen leaders really step up to the mark in this last 9 months, where working from home has become a welcome challenge. And actually many have achieved great success in doing so, to the point where their teams are achieving more now working from home than they were in a working environment, and leaders are thriving as a result of doing so. So in response to your question, absolutely, I have no idea what the outcome will be for you, but I'll be fascinated to find out, and I can promise you that the insights will always prove valuable.
Thanks, Steve. Another one is, I'll read it verbatim. So I have 5 leaders in my business, some better than others. Can you suggest ways to get the leaders to work better together to bridge the gap if we have one?
Yes. So this is one of the things that we encourage. You'll see this through our team. It's about a collective effort, an abundance mindset. You heard me talk about abundance a lot through this presentation. You're much stronger as a team of leaders than you are as an individual leader. So the first point is, let's find out how each of those 5 leaders are being scored by their independent teams. That's what our benchmark survey will provide you. And then you will immediately see who are the higher performing leaders as perceived by their teams, and who are those that maybe need some support. And then it's an opportunity for those that are slightly behind the curve to go, well, look, Ben or Fiona or Sarah or Jane are clearly thriving in their roles. And that's also demonstrated in their business results, because I promise you it'll be a direct correlation to their business results. Maybe this is an opportunity for us to learn from what they're doing to help you as a leader. So where are those transferable insights? There's a structure and a framework built within the platform, because it's not just about capturing data, it's what you do with it that really matters, that will help you to work through that process. And also, by the way, with the Leadership Perception Gap Survey, there is a success guide, and that's also packed with insights, ideas that we've captured from our audience. A lot of this isn't what we've come up with, it's what we've seen and witnessed, where teams have really come together and thrive. So again, in answer to your question, let's first of all find out how each of your 5 leaders are being perceived by their independent teams. Once we've captured that data, the Leadership Perception Success Guide will really help you, as will the structure and framework built within the platform, to bring them together so they become more coherent. Because even the best leaders will learn from those that are maybe struggling, because I promise you, most people have skill sets that are transferable from different experiences.
Yeah, I just thought, following on from that question and your answer. So obviously there may be some resistance in the organisation in terms of trying to really find out how good or where they sit on the 7 Cs from leaders. So have you got any advice in terms of the best way to position that to the leadership team to get them to buy into the tool?
Yeah, there's a right way and a wrong way to do it, because as a leader, because you know, we talk a lot about engagement, as you know, that's the core of what we do. It's about getting a business driving towards that common goal, that purpose. You know, there's the wrong way to do it is go, right, leadership team, we're going to launch a survey to see how good you really are, because immediately they're going to be threatened by that, and they're going to feel like it's an opportunity for you to point fingers. Okay, we have a launch guide that we will provide each and every one of you, which demonstrates a best practice of why you're doing the survey and what's in it for them. So, and there's a 3-stage process to that. Stage 1 is be really clear on why you're doing it as a business. So think about it yourself, whether you're in HR, whether you're a leader, whether you're a business owner on this call. Why are you doing the survey? What are you looking to achieve from this survey? But then there are some bullet points in this guide which will help you to understand what's in it for leaders. And we will help you in terms of, right, leaders, this is why we're doing it as a business, and this is what's in it for you. And again, there are some key points within that guide that will really help you. And then the final stage, stage 3, is then to introduce it to the team, to the employees. You must do it in that order, because you need the support of the leaders to encourage their employees to not just participate, but participate in the right way. But don't worry, it's really quick, really easy. We don't just give you the guides, we give you email templates, we've got short videos. Greg will tell you, launching this platform, it's not rocket science. We're not looking to reinvent the wheel. It's just the phraseology and the words you use that will absolutely where you'll get it right. So yes, would love to help you with that.
Yeah, just to sort of build on that, I mean, it's definitely more than just a platform. There's definitely a support mechanism in the background, and you'd have engagement managers helping you really understand the platform, but also understand what you want to get out of it and point you down the right path to the right tool and the right time to launch it as well. So it's not just a technology platform that you would buy online and then roll out. There's definitely a support mechanism in the background to help everybody along the way. So one last question, I think. So Steve, could you tell us, what do you think is the difference between the Engagement Multiplier report versus 360 feedback exercise?
The biggest difference is the anonymity and confidentiality of our platform. Typically with a 360, this is done on a one-on-one basis. Not always, it depends on the system, but based on my experience. And the biggest issue with that is that, look, if as a business owner, leader, whatever position you're in, if you go to one of your team and ask them a question, I'm not saying your employees are going to lie to you, but they might give you a slightly diluted version of the truth. And the reason why they're doing that is that as an employee, typically you want to be liked and you don't want to get sacked. So it's not that they want to hide anything from you, but there's a tendency for them to tell you what they think you want to hear. And that's what you tend to get with a lot of 360s. I'm not saying all the time, because it depends on the system that you're using. With Engagement Multiplier, platform is completely 100% anonymous. It's confidential. You cannot break the system. And I'd love to show you how that works, both in terms of the way that you group the data, but also how we capture the insights. Because it's not just about scoring, it's about, you know, unlocking that hidden potential. So what insights, what ideas, what feedback have your team got? And that's what you'll capture through our platform. And there's an innovative way, easy for some to say, that not only will you capture that insight, but again, anonymously, you can engage in one-on-one dialogue through the platform using our Vault technology. So, so the biggest difference for us is a couple of things. One, we measure, you know, because what you can measure, you can improve. Two, we hold key principles accountable, so owners and leaders. You know, engagement is top down, so you have to create the environment for your teams to thrive. And number three is the anonymity. It's the ability to capture that data, have a one-on-one dialogue, so you get the clarity and the insight you need, and able to say thank you, but with retaining that confidence and in a structure where people feel safe.
Yeah, just to add to that, I mean, a 360 feedback is normally about an individual, isn't it? Whereas Engagement Multiplier is about the organisation, really. Yes, you might be able to group against leaders, but it's not really trying to single out one individual's performance. Whereas 360 typically is. And just sort of leading on from that, and probably the last question we'll have time for is, what is the minimum amount? So you're struggling with words, I'm struggling with words now. What is the minimum amount of people, what is the smallest number of people who need to take part in the Engagement Multiplier?
It really depends on the business. There is no minimum, really, but I'd say you really want to be having, you know, 10 people in a business realistically to make this viable. Just to be clear, for those of you on the call, Engagement Multiplier is not built typically for your big organizations, so your large conglomerates. That's where most tools like ours lie, in those arenas. Our core audience are businesses that have between 20 and up to 500 employees. In fact, it's probably between 20 and 250 is our sweet spot, because you are in a very fortunate position where you can give every individual a voice, an opportunity to share their view, and you can listen and respond and learn. Whereas if you're in a large organization, you can't do that. You haven't got that capability because you'll just be trapped with so much data. So, so in answer to the question, small is probably around 10. A few, I mean, we have customers with 6 or 7 that are using the platform, but typically 10. Up to 500. We do have much larger. I took on a client last week. It's got just over 4,000, but they're very unique as an organisation.
And just to sort of build on that in terms of the anonymity, is that the right way to say it? You need to have, obviously, you need to have more than 3 people in each group. Yeah. Otherwise, the score won't show for that group. So you might have a company-wide group if you can't split, or the split into different functions is less than 3. So it does provide for that anonymity, because you wouldn't be able to work out who said what either, and the system prevents that from happening. So and all staff will know that, and it does encourage them to be open and honest in their feedback. So thank you, Steve. I think that's all the time we've got for questions. So while we're doing that, I magically switched back to my screen. So just once again, thank you for your session today. It was really insightful as always. We'll send these slides out, but if you do want to take a note of the link to take the free trial, it's on the screen. So www.hrsolutions-uk.com/ Engagement-Multiplier. We will follow up after this event with a link as well. So if you didn't take that down, you will simply be able to click the link to take that trial. And those of you who've indicated that you'd like to speak to Steve, then we'll pass that information on to Steve as well, and he'll reach out to you. Throughout lockdown, we have been doing quite a few webinars, and we continue to do that. So we do have another webinar on the 25th of November, which is to do with health and safety, and really to explore why do we manage health and safety. And then we're going to try and plan for next year from a HR point of view in December, which will be the 10th of December, planning for the year ahead. And I'm sure you can appreciate a lot of people are keen to get 2020 out of the way, but there's a lot going on in 2021 as well, I'm afraid. And we'll be running quite a few webinars throughout 21 as well. And so watch this space for those webinars as they get planned and added to the site. Also, there's other things on the radar, like Brexit is just around the corner, and we do have a Brexit risk audit to help you plan from a people point of view in terms of how you might manage that. Hopefully you've done some planning already. We've had this risk audit for some time, but it's just a reminder that it's still there. GDPR risk audit is there, HR risk audit, and also if you ever got back to work after the lockdown, we do have a COVID-19 self-assessment just to help make sure you do have a COVID secure workspace as well. And the link's on the screen, and again there'll be a link going out on that follow-up email as well. Recently we've launched a health and safety division as well, so if you'd like to find out more about that and some of the training we can offer you, we've got emergency first aid at work, health and safety at work, fire safety, first aid for mental health, and safeguarding as well, and the link's on the screen, and we'll send a link in the follow-up as well. I was having a look at some of the attendees as we were presenting. Quite a few of you are already clients or subscribe to some of our services already. But if you're not, and you want to make sure you stay in the loop, then you can sign up to our newsletter as well. That will mean you get the invites to the webinars as soon as they're published, as well as sort of insights in terms of what's changing, what seems to have been on a daily basis over the last couple of months in relation to employment law and other best practice activities as well. We'd love to hear your feedback on the webinar as well. We'll pass any feedback on to Steve as well, just to constantly help us improve this content, as well as if there's any other content that you'd like us to put on that you're particularly interested in hearing about. We've worked with partners to create some content as well as deliver our own. So if there's something particular that you'd like us to run, then please do let us know. And then just leaves me to say thank you once again to Steve and the team at Engagement Multiplier for running the webinar. It's really insightful.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. Yeah, I just wanted to say before just thank you again, Greg, and thank you to the team. You're amazing to deal with, and I know you spoke with Holly yesterday about your next survey results. So just know I'll be eagerly awaiting for those to come through as well over the coming weeks.
Yeah, I've got to use my toolkit to get my questions ready, but I'm on it. But yeah. Brilliant. Thank you for your time, Steve. I am going to close the webinar now.